According to the World Health Organization, approximately 20 to 30% of older adults worldwide experience social isolation and loneliness. There are many ways we can promote social connections and engagement. I have the pleasure of interviewing two gentlemen today. Lawrence Kosick is the president and co-founder of GetSetUp. GetSetUp is on a mission to help those over 55 learn new skills, connect with others, and unlock new life experience. They teach live classes for older adults by older adults. Wade Yarbrough is also a GetSetUp guide and program administrator. He has a doctorate degree in psychology. He is one of the most popular guides on GetSetUp and shares his love of technology and is able to teach and encourage and empower many older adults as they are navigating new skills. GetSetUp is an online community of over 4 million older adults and 2,000 classes. And in 160 countries. They've been featured in the New York Times, Forbes, and the Washington Post. Today, we talk about how the role of technology is enabling active agers to pursue new experiences and connection. We can unlock a world of opportunity as we continue to be lifelong learners and expand our skill set and connect with others. We talk about how GetSetUp is helping bridge the digital divide, how it facilitates purpose and socialization, how GetSetUp empowers people as they develop their skills and learn new information, how GetSetUp can also be a resource for caregivers. We talk about the importance of having older adults teach older adults, and why people 50 plus are not one homogeneous market, that we have a diverse demographic, and how GetSetUp celebrates that and offers a wide variety of classes available. We also talk about the future of lifelong learning and how GetSetUp continues to evolve to meet these needs. I'm so happy that they've created a learning platform for older adults. You can hear the heart and passion as they share about GetSetUp. Here is my interview with Lawrence Kosick and Wade Yarbrough. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Nicole. It's a real pleasure to be here and to be talking to the audience of Will Gather.
Thanks, Nicole. I'm certainly happy to be here to interact with you today.
Thank you so much for having this conversation with me today. I've been looking forward to it as we can inspire and show people that there's such a world of opportunity and information and learning out there, and you play such an important role in that. Lawrence, you have a personal connection to older adults that inspired you to create GetSetUp. I know your father played a role in that. Can you tell us more about your experience?
It's a personal journey for me. I, like many of us, have older friends, family, and loved ones. My father's now 93. Mm-hmm. As I was growing up, my father was one of the founders of a senior living facility. And so after schools, nights, and weekends, he'd take me along and I'd be able to sort of sit and visit with the residents of the facility. And there was a couple of things that struck me. One was how wonderful these people were, and smart and full of joy, knowledge, wisdom. But I also felt like there was an opportunity, I think, for them to share and give back. And that sounds like perhaps a lot for a young kid to internalize. And I think that now that I look back, I process it in a way that was really quite interesting and formative for me, because I realized that this audience, super smart, interesting, full of life experience, full of wisdom, but perhaps they didn't have an opportunity to really showcase it. And so as I sort of fast forward, 40 years in my life, and I think about ways that I could provide an interesting platform for folks like my dad, but perhaps all older adults, 50, 60 plus. How about creating a platform where they could socialize, learn new things, and connect with others? And wouldn't that be a wonderful thing to do? Thought we would give it a try, and we find ourselves here today, 3 years in, with some really interesting momentum, but still very early on in our journey.
I love that personal connection. I think the people that I've interacted with, you really see when we have that personal story that gives us that drive to create something that we want to be out into the world. It's so meaningful, and it's really fun to see that come to life. Thank you for doing
Thank
that.
you.
And Wade, how did you decide to get involved with this organization? You have quite an impressive background, and I love that you're using all of those skills in what you're doing now.
Yeah, to very briefly, I have a PhD in experimental psychology with a minor in computer science, and spent most of my career actually installing hospital information systems, which involved training the nurses and doctors how to use it. So I've always been involved in education in a number of different areas. I taught as adjunct professor at colleges throughout my career. And prior to joining GetSetUp, I was teaching at community college. I was semi-retired and teaching full-time again, and was looking for something to do during the summer and found GetSetUp and immediately fell in love with the platform because it's the main thing I like about it. And my comparison to teaching at college is the people we teach are there because they want to learn. They're interested in the topics. They're so grateful for the opportunity, which unfortunately you can't always say that about college students.
Yeah.
So it's been really gratifying as an instructor, as a teacher, to connect with students like that.
Yeah, and this is what I'm so happy you're both here, because it's two really unique perspectives as we talk about the program and how it is so important to implement that in people's lives, really see those passions come out. Part of the conversation is really, we have so much technology that we're faced with and we interact with every single day. How does GetSetUp help bridge that digital divide as we're experiencing that?
The primary area I teach in is technology. And a lot of people think that older adults can't deal with technology, and GetSetUp certainly proves that that's not true, because a lot of our learners come to GetSetUp because they do want to get involved. They want to be able to get on Instagram and see their grandkids' pictures, or get on Facebook with their daughter, and they were intimidated by it. And so we provide a nice, safe way for them to come and learn how to use those tools and get engaged and active out there and build their self-confidence. So that's been one of the real rewarding things. One of my learners said that my daughter used to always fuss at me about not being on Facebook, and now I'm the one giving her tips about how to use it.
That's so fun. I know. One of my favorite ways is we have an older relative in our life, and when they were able to learn the social media, I felt so much more connected because they could see the pictures we were sharing. They could comment and interact and have a glimpse into, our day to day, which was really, really special.
If I can chime in and add to what Wade just mentioned, I think one of the competitive advantages and the differences about GetSetUp's approach versus most others is that we wanted it to be peer-to-peer, meaning older adults, of which I consider myself one, but older adults to older adults, because we believed that when somebody was teaching a subject or a topic and it was a similar patience, empathy, and cadence, it reduced the fear and hesitation around learning that topic. And I think that has really been sort of a wonderful thing that GetSetUp has done a very nice job of. And Wade is an awesome example. People that take Wade's classes very quickly want to take all of Wade's classes because they really like Wade. They like Wade's style. They like his approach. They like the vocabulary that he uses. It's friendly. There's a lot of social component to it, and they really like it. And so I think that it's making it comfortable for folks to feel like they're in a safe place where they can learn something new and not feel intimidated.
Yeah, and intimidated, that's the perfect word, because when we're stepping into those new things, it's so important that we feel like we can have a safe place to fumble if we need to, or ask questions and not feel judged, all of that. So that's so important.
Yeah, and one other aspect of that as well is that they can take the same class over again, because lots of times we don't absorb everything, especially in an hour-long class the first time. I've had people take my classes 4, 5, 6 times, and they'll usually say, I've taken your class 4 times and I learned something new every time, because they are interactive. There's questions coming up. So the questions that the learners ask during the course makes it different every time you attend the class. It's not like watching the same YouTube 5 times.
Right. Yeah. And I think, I'll even read something and pull a different thing out of it the second or third time I've, read it or interacted with it. So I agree. Having the opportunity to do that and to absorb it's so helpful. Really, there's a conversation, I believe, that's elevated right now when we talk about purpose, finding our purpose, discovering what that is, being engaged in it. How does Get Set Up facilitate purpose for people and that socialization that we need so much?
I think GetSetUp approaches it in two different ways. So because we are older adults who teach other older adults, it means that on one side of the table, we're perhaps empowering somebody to share their knowledge, share their wisdom, perhaps earn a little extra money doing it by helping the learners who are trying to learn a topic, a subject, an app, solve for a use case.
Mm-hmm.
And in both of those scenarios, there's really quite a significant amount of value being exchanged because you've provided, economic opportunity and purpose on one side and a wonderful learning opportunity on the other. And one of the outcomes that we've seen from that, of the many, is that a lot of the learners, after they take 5 or 10 or 20 classes, they might raise their hand and say, I'm a retired doctor, lawyer, teacher, nurse, yoga instructor.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible for me to host a session or potentially teach on the platform? And in many cases, the answer can be yes. And so you have that really interesting circuitous loop where you have teachers, you have learners, but many of the learners can actually eventually become
Ah,
hosts of sessions themselves. So it's
yeah.
wonderful.
That's really cool to see that cycle happen.
And kind of a related topic is that we also have classes about things that older adults can do. If sometimes you've retired and you're not quite sure what you're going to do with the next phase of your life. And we have classes about volunteering opportunities, things you might want to do in that area, as well as total career changes,
Mm.
types of jobs that you might want to pursue as an older adult that are maybe totally different than what you did before.
And some things we don't even think about. So having the foresight of people that have gone through that ahead of us and being able to share that. So you touched on what my next question is, and I'm sure it's hard to list every single class that is offered, but give us an idea of the categories of the different types of classes that we could take.
Some of the primary categories is technology, of course, is where we actually started.
Mm-hmm.
And we've now evolved into cooking classes. Fitness is a big area where we have lots of fitness classes. Travel classes are very popular as well. And wellness is an area which is fairly broad that includes all sorts of mental wellness topics as well as nutrition and those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of mentioned some of the career development, job hunting, resumes development types of classes for those people that do want to re-engage in the workforce in a different area. I'm sure I'm missing some, but
Yeah.
those are some.
Oh, you did a good job. You did a good job. I mean, just to chime in what Wade just talked about, as the name would suggest, we started by teaching basic tech classes, and the notion was, well, how do we help folks get set up on whatever device they might have and help them get into their first class?
Mm.
And in many cases, that was, helping them with their tablet, their Android phone, an iPhone, an older laptop, whatever was required to help get them into that first sort of interactive video class. Because once you did, it opened up a whole new universe of anything and everything that they could potentially learn.
Mm.
And that took a really interesting form because we started to ask the learners what other subjects, topics they might want to learn. And that's when, they would tell us all sorts of exercise classes, health and wellness classes. Sometimes it was, help with managing and understanding chronic illnesses, or it might be how to use telehealth or how to use ride sharing. And so we really developed a very, very wide sort of set of curriculum that addressed, everything from fun, interesting, health and wellness, hobbies, and in fact, entertainment. So it's become a wonderful platform that offers, something for everybody.
Yes, yes. And I've seen my peers in the industry share and talk about it. So I know that there's really fun momentum for you. And it's, to your point, that's so true. When we train on the technology first and you get that, then you're able to comfortably interact with all of the other classes and programs because you've had that first initial, learning about how to engage and facilitate with technology. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
I think that we help and assist with the technology piece because it's an enabler for so many other things that folks might want to learn. So yes, you can learn whatever sort of basic tech that you need to learn, and you get to learn from somebody wonderful like Wade. But then after that, it's really just about how do I use tech to do all of these other really interesting things,
Yeah.
and how do I use that to complement the rest of my life. And in some cases it might be, I live in a rural area, or I have mobility challenges, or I'm interested in something or a topic where the resources aren't close to me, and so virtual helps provide sort of access and options to learning when it might not otherwise be available. But I think that the tech piece, we realized that if we really helped folks solve that first mile challenge, which was understand how to use whatever device they had to get into their first class, that would then open the door to all of the other sort of topics, subjects, applications, services that they could learn. And now we're just a comfortable place, a safe, secure place to learn all of those things, whether you're an older adult, a caregiver for an older adult. We want to be the place that's comfortable for folks to learn whatever it is they need to learn for that next phase of their life.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when people come to your website and sign up, do you recommend what is that tech resource they should be looking for to kind of get established right away?
We often start with sort of an overview where they can book a session that is essentially a live introduction to everything we do. And the hosts of those sessions are wonderful, and Wade will have all sorts of insight here. But we use those sessions to find out what people are interested in, what they might be struggling with, what they want to learn. If there's a specific use case they're trying to solve for, give them a bit of a tour of the website, the types of classes, and then maybe help them book those first few classes. So that's one of the things that we offer so that we can help people understand what's possible when they do arrive.
And one of the things we try to do as well, because way back when we didn't have a ton of classes, and we do have a fairly intimidating catalog now, but as we do the classes, we try and give learners ideas of what you may want to take next. You've taken the getting started with Gmail class. You may want to take the useful things you didn't know about Gmail, or maybe take the Google Calendar class because that's related. And so help them navigate through that course catalog. And one of the big things that we haven't mentioned that I did want to make sure we bring out is, I think our courses in general, but especially maybe the technology classes, really build self-confidence. A lot of people start kind of timid. I don't know if I can do this. I'm not good with technology. And as they start to take classes and get more comfortable, you just see them start to blossom and their confidence builds. And they start to take classes just out of curiosity. I think lots of times they're drawn to get set up with some need. I need to learn how to improve my diet or learn how to use Facebook. But then all of a sudden I have somebody in my class and I say, well, why did you take this class? I said, well, I've just heard of Twitter and I didn't know what it was. So I just wanted to learn about it. So that
good.
Inquisitiveness and confidence that they can learn new things is a huge benefit, I think.
I do too. The curiosity of life, right?
I have one more thing to offer, which complements what Wade said, because Wade described sort of the learning use cases that most people arrive and decide that they want to explore. But there are a lot of users that after they do that, they take a few classes and they really like Wade's style, Wade's delivery, the friendliness of Wade's classes. They'll take all of his classes, no matter what he's teaching. And so I have a 93-year-old father who will take, Wade's beginner, intermediate, and advanced classes. And some of those advanced classes are well beyond, what I understand, what he understands. He doesn't care. He loves the people that are there and he loves Wade. So he's going to the class. And that is very much sort of a community, social, friendship sort of benefit that comes from taking classes in a safe, secure place, but then becoming comfortable connecting with the teachers and making friends with other folks in the classes.
Absolutely. It comes back to that socialization and engagement piece that's so important. It's the byproduct, right? Of we're not only learning, but we're so much else is happening. So much else is happening. Well, what a compliment to you, Wade, that you are so well cared for in the company and that you're celebrated, which is, I mean, how cool is that? Yeah.
It is indeed. Thank you.
Yeah, it just speaks
Wade's
to
the
the
best.
organization.
Wade's the
Yeah.
best.
Oh, it speaks to the organization that you see that and that you compliment that. So from the outside looking in, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I get so much from it. As I said, it really is a joy to work in this environment. And I'm a lifelong learner as well, because I learn from our learners. Because sometimes a question will come up in class and I don't know the answer, and so I'll go and research it and put it in the class notes, and so they'll know. But it keeps driving me to continue to learn as well.
Mhm.
So I'm a beneficiary as well as a guide.
Those are the best relationships, right? Where it goes both ways.
Exactly.
Both ways. You guys have so many classes that you offer, and how would you say that this could be a resource for caregivers specifically?
So I think that caregivers is such an important category for helping us sort of build the kind of programming and curriculum that we do and reaching and impacting as many older adults as we can. Because in many cases, the older adults may have the basic technical wherewithal to find us and get into these classes. And we can, of course, provide all the assistance we can to make that happen. But in many cases, making caregivers aware that this type of service exists so that they can expose their older friends, family, or loved ones to this type of service is a huge benefit for us. And we think a great way for their older adult loved ones to discover that this service exists. And so
Mhm.
I think that if we could, sort of send out an invitation to caregivers to come and visit GetSetUp and bring that older loved one, and we can help them find that right first class, get them into that sort of comfortable environment where they can learn at their own speed, then I think we've done some good all the way around. I think that we've provided a helpful service, they've provided access for that loved one to sort of discover,
Mm.
and then the rest we can take from there.
I appreciate that. And as family caregivers, my family, my grandma lived with us. And part of that too is we see ways that we want to bring joy into their day and purpose into their day. And sometimes we don't always have the tools at our fingertips to do that or the capacity. As a caregiver, we've got a lot going on. We might be trying to work full time or managing that. So I also see it as such an enhancement to providing meaningful engagement throughout the day, as we want our loved ones to feel that they've got meaningful things to fill their time. And as a way to connect with each other, right? So we're also looking for ways to connect and spend time with grandma or spend time with mom. And at times we also don't really know, okay, I've done this and this, what else can I do? And doing maybe some of that together to build that bond and relationship as well. As we learn and interact together, I think it just fosters that even more so.
And circling back to social media, that's a way I think the caregiver and the family member can interact. So if you know that mom has taken a course on Facebook and is starting to use it to interact with them on Facebook and kind of foster that new skill they've learned and
Mhm.
encourage them, or if they're learning how to text, they've never texted before, to engage them and help them practice those skills that they learned to get set up and make it a way to communicate better with people that may not live next door.
Yeah, and empowering our loved ones too, to that they can learn new skills and then be independent in those ways. Whereas I think families we've taken on, I've helped my grandma get her computer ready or answer all those questions in the time and all of that, where it's like I want to see her flourish, and have access to feel empowered to do that on her own.
Another kind of related class, I teach a class on Uber, and it's a class where so many people have heard of Uber, don't know what it is. And learning about that, again, gives them mobility back because they can now go and get rides somewhere even if they're not comfortable driving, or if they can drive but they don't really want to anymore. So that's another skill they can learn. In fact, one of my learners said after they took the class, they said, wow, we don't really need two cars after all. Now that I know how to use Uber, we're going to sell a car and save some money.
Oh, so good. Yes. Wow. Okay. That is so cool that you teach that class because I've had to like walk my parents through how to use Uber and now they're like sold. They're like, this is awesome. So amazing.
Well, I was just going to mention that Uber is a really wonderful example of learning a life-changing skill,
Mm,
because that is the very difference between somebody who may not have friends or family nearby with a car that can help drive them to whatever appointment or grocery store, whatever they're trying to get to. But once they learn how to use, the Uber app and a service like Uber from someone like Wade and feel comfortable enough to do that, you've really solved an important problem and a mobility and access challenge that was so critical to their quality of life. And they've gone from sort of being very dependent on others and waiting at home for somebody to help them with something to now being able to use a really important technology. And it's been sort of simplified and demystified so that they can go use that to do whatever it is they need to do, visit the doctor, go to the grocery store, see a friend. That's a wonderful outcome.
yeah. Truly life changing when you think about it. It really is. Okay.
Peer to peer or older adult to older adult was simply one of the most important decisions we made. We made it early on. We believe it was the right thing to do. We think it's part of what makes GetSetUp truly different and that friendlier, more approachable place for older adults to learn whatever that new skill is. And I think we all
Mhm.
have some fear and trepidation around looking dumb, asking a silly question, feeling like it's not a safe, comfortable space. All of that really goes away when you're in a place or a space where it's
Mhm.
others just like you and you can feel comfortable. Well, gee, if they can do it, perhaps I can do it too. And it's a type of vocabulary and pace that's just comfortable. And that really has been an important point of differentiation for GetSetUp.
Yeah, completely. I have a question. So I can't figure out TikTok. Do you have a TikTok class by chance?
Do
That
actually,
is like
yes.
one thing I'm like, I go in there and I know I need to use it for work, and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. So, all right, you might see me. You might see me in there.
Yeah.
I'm closer to 50 than you think. I also, speak to that. Why are people 50 plus not one homogenous market?
Well, if you think about 50 plus, that plus can mean another 40 or 50 years
Yeah.
of age. And with that comes a whole host of different scenarios that you might want to learn different products and services to augment your life, right? At perhaps the earlier part of that spectrum, you're thinking about maybe additional skills to volunteer, continue to work, workforce development type things, if that's
Hmm.
relevant to you. Those are very different classes perhaps than what somebody who is 75 or 85 might take, which might be a little bit more around discovery or health and wellness or managing a chronic illness. And so those you cannot simply address those two age groups exactly the same way. It would be the same as teaching a 10-year-old and a 50-year-old the
Yeah.
same thing. They're fundamentally different.
Right.
So we do grapple with that, but we continue to get better at making sure that we recommend the right types of classes for the right skill levels, for the right use cases. And that does help us address sort of a larger portion of that broad demographic.
It is. And it's so diverse too. Wouldn't you say? Where we use the term older adult, and that encompasses, like you mentioned, how many years in that time frame. So it's so important that I love that you're thinking about that you're offering diverse classes based on that age range. I think that that's where uh, folks can go and see what is available to them and their needs at that time.
And I do want to emphasize that all older adults can continue to learn and be active. We just had a celebration for a learner that turned 100, who is still actively taking our classes. So you're never too old to learn, and we try
Mhm.
to cover that full gauntlet from 50 to as far as they go. And so we again have a learner that's 100 years old.
Yeah, it's so, oh my gosh, the lifelong learning and having that at your fingertips is so valuable. Are you finding that there's more of a request for a variety of classes that have that diversity component, or how do you see where's the need and what are people requesting lately that they're interested in?
That's a really big question. And I
Hmm.
think the fact that we have over 4,000 different types of classes would tell you a lot about diversity just with that number, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's us continually sort of surveying the learner base, finding out what else they might want to learn or need to learn. And people also ask, what's changed in terms of course consumption between sort of the pandemic and now that it's post, and has the types of classes people take changed? And I think to some extent, I mean, people that need to learn basic tech always need to learn basic tech. That's something that's popular then and it's popular now. But I will say that we saw sort of a real importance on use case specific classes at the time of the pandemic. So how to use an app to order groceries, Uber to get to a doctor's appointment, a specific app to order medication, how to use a telehealth service to talk to the doctor, very use
Mm.
case specific. And while those are still popular, now there's a lot more classes around cooking and photography and travel and things that allow people to sort of use virtual to access and learn about other categories so that they can maybe go out into the world and use that knowledge in a real practical way.
Yeah.
In which case it's quite complementary to their life. So that's changed over the course of time. But the 4,000 number, I think, would sort of suggest that we do care quite a lot about accessibility. We offer classes in 4, maybe 5 languages. And we will continue to sort of ramp that up as we have the resources. But the more relevant classes we can make available to a broader audience, that's always and continues to be our goal.
And that growth has been very organic and driven by our learners to a large extent. The new classes, we're coming our learners saying, hey, could you teach a class on TikTok? I've heard of it. I don't know what it is. So sure, we develop a class. So it's really been driven by the needs and requests of our learner base.
Yeah, you can see when you have that number of classes that it's addressing such a wide variety. Oh, so you talked some about, the success with Uber. Share some of those success stories. Do you have any favorites that stand out where people have really stepped into their fullness by taking some classes?
One area we haven't talked as much about is
Mhm.
in terms of aging in place and things like they're using Alexa. And so there have been a lot of people that have taken those classes and really benefited by learning how to stay safe at home by having Alexa turn on lights for them as they're moving room to room and being able to use it for hands-free calling. So is one area where people really have let us know or let me know in the classes that I feel much safer now at home once I've learned how to use Alexa with a few smart devices.
That's a
Just make sure my doors are
great,
locked before I go to sleep by
yes.
telling Alexa to lock the doors and having smart doorbells to see who's at the door before I walk anywhere near the door. Makes people feel safer at
Mhm.
home and able to age in place more.
I'm so glad you shared that. That's one question we get asked all the time is people want to implement those products, but they don't know how to set them up or how to use them. So how helpful is that?
I encounter almost daily examples of learners who have taken specific classes, and the information that they've gleaned from those classes has changed some aspect of their life. And it could be as basic as they learned how to use Gmail so that they could better communicate with their grandchild. They've learned how to use Zoom so that they could chat with their church group. They learned how to use a telehealth app so that they could communicate with their doctor. They took a travel class to learn about a new place that they might eventually want to go to, and made some friends in that class and the subsequent classes, and would like to take the trip with the friends that they made in those
How
classes.
cool.
And I just
Yeah.
think that those are really wonderful examples of not just learning, but the socialization and the friendship that comes with doing it in an interactive way.
Mhm.
And I would think that if you make friends on the platform and then you can travel and do some of these things together, perhaps you've become less lonely and you've felt a little bit more community. And I think that that's a wonderful byproduct or outcome
Oh my
of folks
gosh.
taking
Yeah.
classes together.
Yeah, it is. And we talked about that social connection and engagement. And I was reading through some of those points to that, and it improves that cognitive function. It lowers that risk of depression. We've got improved physical health, immune function, all of those things. And we tie that back, there's such that highlight of tying it back to that social isolation and loneliness and how we fight that and right and how we combat that. And it gives us tools. You're giving us tools to be able to do that. And then they're making friends within the class. I mean, how cool is that? What do you see as the future of lifelong learning and building this community? And how do you see GetSetUp evolve to continue to meet these needs? What are you excited about for the future?
Well, the wonderful thing about what it is we do is we're continually asking the learners what else they need to learn to live that happy, healthy, more connected lives. And the world is full of products and services and apps that are becoming more automated, that have less paper instructions, that require more QR codes or URLs to be scanned or typed in to go and learn how to use that basic service. So we find that our role in demystifying and making tech more approachable becomes more important over time in a world where it becomes more automated and it becomes more of a foregone conclusion that people know how to use tech and know how to use apps. And if they don't, then it's going to be our role to help the 50 plus learn to do those things and to be that safe, secure, comfortable place to do it. And when it's done in an interactive way, then we are enhancing this sort of learning community where people are making friends and they're doing it together, almost in a support group kind of way. It's fun to learn new things together and know that you're not the only one in this boat. And you can have fun and laugh while you make those mistakes and learn new things. And you'll see, we'll just continue down that road, but we'll offer more languages, more services. We'll think of ways to build on the interactivity and the community so that more people can take more classes and make more friends and do more things, both online and offline. We don't want people to sit in front of their computer for 10 hours a day. We want them to learn something interesting, fun, and productive, and then go use it. And if we can be part of that, great, but it doesn't have to always be on a computer screen. We want them to live, the lives they want to live and support in any way that we can.
Thank you. And it makes such a difference because we need those voices in our space to encourage that. You also make this really accessible for people, and you do that through great partnerships. So how do people have access to GetSetUp through those partnerships as a part of that?
We're blessed to have great partners. And thank you for asking that question, because we couldn't do what we do if we didn't have those partners. They help subsidize the cost of building the platform, hiring the guides who create wonderful content and make these classes available to different learners around the country. And many of our partners are local, city, state, area agencies for aging, health and human services for states like New York and Michigan and Vermont and Wyoming. I think we have partnerships in probably 30 plus different states. Additionally, we have partnerships with Medicare Advantage, like health plans that offer GetSetUp as a benefit as being a member of those plans. And so what we've really done is tried to make our service as accessible as possible to as many different geographies, learners, and categories. And in many cases, it's been partnerships in government and healthcare that has allowed us to service I think it's 2.2 million US older adults on a monthly basis. And that's quite a big number for a company that's just 3 years old. But I think it's a testament to providing a really essential service at a time where there just wasn't a lot of other options. And then really listening to the learners and seeing what else we could provide. And then going and finding partners who cared about the health and wellness of this audience. And we were lucky to find those, and they do subsidize the cost of the classes and make our classes free in many cases to their older adult populations.
Yeah, it tells you about the need that you've got that many people that are utilizing it, that they're really looking for that. So for older adults and families, can they then request that through their health plan and check into that and make sure? I think I always tell families, use your voice, ask for what you want, ask for what you need, because otherwise it's not going to happen. So
Absolutely. In many cases, they can just come and visit, getsetup.io or getsetup.org, and they can see a whole host of free classes that they can get into right then and there, like right away. And then we can help them map to a partner or a health plan. And so they can figure out, we can help them figure out which of these partners will subsidize the additional costs of the classes they take. So it's a wonderful outcome for many, because it ends up being sort of free to the end user or no cost. And it's then the cost of the class is subsidized by the organizations, healthcare companies, and state and local governments who subsidize the cost of these.
This has been such an enlightening conversation. I had no idea that all of this was available. I knew there were classes and I knew there were many and we could learn anything, but hearing the specific details and really learning more about your heart behind your company and what you're up to made it so much more meaningful for me, and I know the audience. So where can we learn more? I know you talked about that a little bit, but where can we direct people to find out more about your company?
Thank you for asking, Nicole. We would invite anybody who wants to learn more about GetSetUp or has friends, family, or loved ones who might be interested in a class to come to www.getsetup.io. That's www.getsetup.io. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you in there.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll include that on the show notes. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed my conversation with both of you, and I hope all my listeners go and see GetSetUp and what you are up to. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicole. Really appreciate you having us. And thanks to my coworker, Wade, who is probably the most popular guide we have on our platform. And for anybody who wants to learn, basic, intermediate, or advanced tech, Wade is your guy.
All right, thanks, Nicole. It's been a great opportunity to talk with you and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed our episode, please subscribe and give us 5 stars. In all honesty, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening to our episode.